And I think that brings up, kind of brings us to an interesting thing that I wanted to talk about on the podcast was in tattoos. Obviously, like you've said a couple times on this podcast, you're a realism artist. Um, but when I hear realism, obviously a lot of my thoughts go to like photos, like a photograph, and like tattooing that. But you're also coming up with like a design that like fits someone's arm well, and a lot of times that comes with like double exposing some subject matters, and even playing with like colors in interesting ways to build contrast or kind of like make the eye see something differently or section things off. So I think in photography, or maybe like different forms or different mediums of art, it that would almost come off as surrealism in some ways, versus like it's still being called realism in tattoos, even though there's so much design going into it. Um, and I don't know. You kind of see what I'm getting at, because even something like taking a skull and then putting like a rose with it and like kind of double exposing it in an interesting way. That skull's not as large as a rose, or I guess the other way around. That rose isn't as large as that skull, but now that I'm seeing it on someone's arm, the tattooer like blew up that rose to like fit this arm well, and they put a bunch of like flow lines or like smoke and shit. So when I see that, versus like in my head when I'm thinking of what photorealism is, it's just a photo in a realistic setting. That would tell me it's surrealism, because there's like you're playing with like size and like distorting what reality is. And clearly a lot of the things that you see people have tattooed on them, there's not an actual image of that, right? You're taking images and combining it into like an art piece or a design. So
Yeah, I just Googled surrealism, the definition, a 20th century avant-garde day, AVANT-GARDE movement in art literature which sought to release the creative potential of the unconscious mind, for example, by the irrational juxtaposition of images.
which is
Which
kind of
that
what
last
it
sentence
is.
kind of makes me think of what you just said. Yeah, taking multiple images and creating something with
Right,
that.
expressing the mind, and like, because that's literally what tattooers are doing. They're like, I've got this vision on my head. It would be dope if this skull was like double exposed with this fucking rose, but I've got to make it work. Like, so I've got to make the rose bigger. It's got to like be turned and like fit up into like, you just see what I say. You're doing
Yeah,
so many things to like make this fit the vision that's in your head, but it's in your head.
yeah,
So again, that's I think that's so interesting why it still gets called realism
yeah.
versus surrealism. But
Well,
I know there are artists like Little Andy that are trying to like go towards that, and they're using that term like surrealism. Like, I do
yeah,
surrealism artwork, and when you look at it, you're like, that's definitely
it makes sense.
surrealism.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great example of me never really even caring. It's like the genre of
Right?
music.
Does it sound good?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I've always called myself photorealistic realism artist because I'm using photos, but taking those photos and maybe I should start saying more surreal. Because very seldom do I do just a portrait or like
Right.
just a straight image. It's always mixed with things and try to have it stylized and um even if I do and it's like the portrait I just did this past week with um
Nicole.
Nicole's grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was stylized, mixed with a warrior helmet. Did you see the photo of her showing that to her grandma?
I didn't.
Yeah, she did a pretty cool actually like little video. Then it would be we probably should post it. But some stages throughout the day. It was like 6 or 7 different stages of progress, and then she took her bandage off, cleaned it all up, and her family was all there. But her grandma was sitting in a chair, and she went up and looked at that, and she was like, I think she said, "I looked like a bad bitch" or something like
No
that.
way.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
awesome, dude.
Um, And it was cool. Her leg looks so swollen in the video.
Oh man.
But I was like, damn, that was rad, you know. But it's a good example of surrealism versus a photorealism because I used several different images.
And see,
So
and that's another line for me. Like, I kind of hate that I'm like a genre Nazi like that a little bit. Because it's like you said, it's not important, but it's just like for me, like interesting, I guess. But I could almost see that as being realism, right? Despite like using the multiple.
well, I think realism is an umbrella term, and then there's like subcategories.
You're right, because you could take surrealism. It could be like neo. It could be like a neo believable surrealism. Um, so, and you're right, but I could also just imagine that a woman did wear armor like that, like in real life, and you could actually just photograph her that way. Or another example,
I guess if it was just done well enough to where it just looked photorealistic.
which
I
I
guess-
mean, like,
I get maybe even surrealism is a slight cop out from, not in a bad way. I'm not saying that and like you're not doing good enough. No,
right? No, I see
But,
what you
like,
mean.
not fully photorealistic because there's a play on it
Mm-hmm.
or it's stylized a little bit. Because when I think photorealism, like that's the picture.
Right.
You know, so and I don't think I pulled off that helmet good enough to where it was just like, damn, that looks like
Looks
it's
like a
just
photo.
fucking directly on her head. Like, no, I could tell that it was clearly two different images put together. You know, I obviously do my best, but even with the background or like just how I put things in there, it didn't look like a photorealistic setting. Because I think photorealistic, I'm thinking like shit's blurred, out of focus, in focus,
Right.
like sharp but there's a lot of aspects to it that I feel like really creates a photo. And that's fucking hard.
It is super hard, especially when when you're using multiple images to build this design or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think another example of that is like you see the people that do portraits like in a locket or like in a frame or something. Even though it could be like you take the locket separate than the photo and you put that photo inside the locket. If the execution's there, like what you're saying, you've got like the softer parts where it's like less focal, and then the sharper points where that's clearly where the focus is and stuff like that. I feel like that would just be deemed photorealism, right? Even though you're like making this locket, pretty much it's got this photo in it because it never existed beforehand. But I like wouldn't see that and think surrealism. But I think that you have such an interesting point with that I feel like photorealism should almost just be this definitive thing.
Well, it almost makes me think like a few small minor details could change that to where if it was teetering, now you know it's not. It's like, what kind of background do you do? You know, does it look
That's a
like
good
it's
one.
literally sitting on a table and like you have the drop shadow and you have like, does it look like you took a picture of this locket sitting
Like
on
fucking
something?
wood grain on the back and it's
Yeah.
like fading off
Or
and
like,
stuff.
is it hanging from something? But like, are the beads or the chain? Is it like perfect? Does it
Right.
look like it's how it would be in real life? Versus, okay, instead of doing that drop shadow, I'm just going to put a little shade all around it, and now it looks like it's kind of floating. I feel like that takes away from the realism a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So even just small details like that could make it teeter one way or the other. But do I think you could take a locket, put an image in it of a photo, and make it look like it was photographed all in one, but it was multiple images and still be photorealism? Yeah, I think so. But just those small minor details, I think, could really change it.
That's interesting.
You know, or I wonder what the definition of hyperrealism is.
And that's another fun one.
And I think it is just like enhancing or like giving more highlights or giving more texture or just like amplifying the noise kind of. Maybe noise isn't the right technical term. I'm sure that it's not, but just making things, keeping them realistic, but just exaggerating maybe.
Right, you're like introducing more pixelation to it. Kind of a big one for me that I always think of, I guess, like in like canvas art, I always think of the woman that's got like the honey running down her face, or maybe it's like motor oil. I hope it's not motor oil. But I always think of that one, and then in tattoos, I always think of like the Kobe tattoos.
Hyperrealism is a genre of painting and sculpture resembling a high-resolution photograph. So it's kind of along the lines of what we're saying. It just amplifies all the detail because resolution is
The amount of pixels
like
that are actually
DPI
yes.
almost, like they're almost the same thing.
Very, very pretty. I mean, yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Hyperrealism is considered an advancement of photorealism by methods used. Oh shit! I clicked a. Yeah, so essentially, what we were saying.
Because you're extracting almost like every little bit of detail out of it. Because like when I'm looking, like right now when I'm looking at you, for example, like the human eye doesn't see like someone's every last little fucking pore. No, they don't see like every last little highlight on every little like sweat bead coming off them or whatever. But when they go to do that artwork and they're aiming to make a hyper realistic image, they're probably going and like mega like pulling out every last little bit of detail you get into that thing, because that's what they're always doing. I feel like those guys use the most white than any fucking artist, because it's almost like the whole tattoo's just got white in it at the very end.
And I think the white just adds a level of like sharpness.
And it does technically, because when I'm working in Lightroom and I turn the sharpness up on an image, it brings more whites. But I think that might have a lot to do with like obviously I think sharpness is created through contrast, and it also comes through like how sharp the lines are being made. So a lot of times when, I guess for me, when I'm taking an image, it's usually darker than it is brighter. So the way that the image becomes sharper is bringing more white into it, or like more highlights into it, which overall just makes the image brighter by default. Of course, it's not like taking the exposure and cranking it up, or like the shadows, so all the dark parts are now becoming light, but every last little nick or like line on someone's face, if it's a photo of someone's face or something, like all the white gets pulled out of it, like pulled forward rather.
Makes sense.
It does make sense.
I typed in just like different styles of realism, and there's quite a few.
Is there?
Yeah, it looks like it. Impressionism, modern art. Well, I don't know. There's too many lists, but.
And I feel like just from like the industry we're in, I feel like a lot of people are very technical, or at least it didn't come from a technical place.
Yeah.
But now it's like there's tons of people with art degrees and shit.
Yeah, and I think it's getting more so getting into that. And one of the podcasts I was listening to today, they were talking about that, because you got two different types of tattooers that are really kind of squaring off. You got ones with fine art degrees, and they're like, I'm trying to think of how they framed it, but real technical and like art content, like how it's made and what they're doing. And then you got the tattooers that more of craftsmen, which I think comes with, I think they were talking about it in terms of like the tools and like being a toolsman, being able to use the tools and do the craft more so that way, versus the art. They're like, I don't really even care about the tools. It's more of the art that you get from it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but that was a big topic they were talking about. And whether they thought one was better than the other, and they took the stance of like, just shut the fuck up and tattoo, like,
right,
like tattoo's a space, like you're not right or wrong, like, so like just fucking worry about you growing your shit, you know. And
sounds like
better,
a tattooer thing to say,
you know. I fuck
I agree with it though.
I do, because it's like, to think I'm right or you're wrong, or you're right I'm wrong, it's like, it doesn't even matter, you know?
Which is kind of an extension of like getting that degree a little bit. And I'm not trying to dog on anyone that like went out and got an art degree, because I mean, we already talked about school. It's like paying to have someone tell you exactly like what you want to know, kind of, in a way, or at the very least, like being taught things that a person has
Yeah.
directly and like hands on in a lot of ways.
Well, and most of them have the resources readily available, so it's like I can take a certain amount of time, I can pay for a certain amount of knowledge, and I can have it all shoved down my throat. And it's up to me to take it and use it or whatever, versus you having to go out and find all the information, which, if I had to choose between the two, I would say find it yourself so you can build that skill of being resourceful and being
Like
able to figure it out
craftsmanship.
yourself. But it's also time goes into that. How long, what's most important to you, um, like for me, it's always just been the tattooing. So it's like do whatever I can to get to just tattooing, and then I'll really focus on my craft. And I feel like in a lot of ways, it's hindered me now that I'm like trying to develop in the composition, art, design aspect of things. Um, but I don't know if I would have changed it and flip flopped. I don't think that I would have rather focus mainly on the art first and then put everything else on the back burner. I'm glad I did it the way I did it. So now, um, it's just like the cherry on top kind of thing. I feel like I'm fed, my family's fed, we're living a good life, people around me are fed, the shop's growing. If I would have been solely in my art and not the business side of things, I think it would have, like, I would just now be getting things rolling good. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um,
I also think there's something to say about like when you're just like kind of focusing on like building your craftsmanship and finding your answers, better yet, going out and looking for them and finding them that way. Um, I feel like you tend to do a lot better on the back end, or maybe build your confidence a little bit more. I don't know, versus like going to school or maybe like having someone tell you all these rules and like these are the aspects of art. You go make and do it, because through that when I feel like when you understand the technical sides of it, and then you can look at someone else's artwork and be like, oh, I know that this is a wonderful piece of artwork. It's renowned because of X, 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 and X, all of these things. How the fuck am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? Like, I see what it is. I see how they did it, but there's nothing that I have that I've garnered that's like, what's my craftsmanship? I know art really well, but how can I do those things? I feel like on the opposite side, working on craftsmanship, you're just fucking around, right? You're pretty much just like messing around until you figure stuff out. And in that, you're still like coming up with your niche, or like kind of honing your, I guess, I don't know.
we're looking up a lot of definitions tonight, which I like. It means I'm learning.
Right. But I feel like if you knew what made art good and had examples in front of you about like execution, like this is well known artwork executed, and this is why it's like known to be really good. I feel like you would just have such a fucking mountain in front of you that like, oh, now I'm trying to compete with this, and I should be able to produce because I know the rules, right? Does that make more sense? Like, I know the rules of this game. I just have to play it to do what he's doing. But man, when I make art, it just doesn't
Yeah,
hit the same.
it's just like book knowledge versus like.
I'm gonna call a motherfucker right now, kind of like street knowledge versus book knowledge.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that I know a lot of college kids that feel like they've really accomplished something in life graduating, which it's a big thing. It's a lot of time, and
Right.
especially if you keep your nose to the grind and like really push through, like because there's a lot of distractions in college. I'm sure, it's a place like where people graduate, feel like they've really accomplished something, but really they're just at fucking ground zero. They're at that level where they got to start now, but
Right.
they feel like because they've done this thing that they have all this knowledge, but it hasn't really been applied yet. In a way, maybe. Um, versus straight out of school, you spent 2 years in college. I spent 2 years in real world. Uh, I think by the time I would have graduated college, Like I was already doing an average of what you expect out of school. I don't know exactly what that statistic is, but
without the debt.
yeah.
But at the same time, without all that,
There's been
terminology and,
yeah.
you know,
It's
all
been
the technical stuff.
yeah, there's been a lot of just going off feeling and just like what the people around me could teach me, because I've never been good at seeking out knowledge, doing research. Like I've never been good at any of that. And not until these past like 2 or 3 years have I really actually tried to become better and work on that side of things. And I can tell when I can tell when I'm not actively trying to learn and grow. I can tell when I'm not like taking in good information and growing. It definitely affects like my daily drive 100%. But
I feel like I can feel myself like literally being stretched or like even growing in some ways. Like
when you are learning,
when I am
yeah.
like, cause I like something, I don't know about if there's like a moment that people have throughout the day similar to this, but I feel like there's like this moment I have when I first get in the door, when I get home, where it's like the rest of my day comes down on me, where like I finally have received everything that I've gotten that day. And when I feel like it's a day that I've actually learned something, or maybe I'm like in this space of learning better than just like one night of it. I feel like when I get home and my day's finished, I just feel larger than I am. Does that make sense? Like I feel bigger, or I feel like
Sure.
I've actually stretched
Just
a little bit.
Accomplishment.
Yeah.
Actual things that can be checked off the checklist.
God, that shit feels so fucking good, man.
It does.